Ay, Dios mío! Barry and Doflamingo are working together! He must have broken him out of Impel Down, guys. The very idea of them working in tandem could spell the end of the world as we know it! But that's not important right now. You know what is important? Not Doflamingo breaking out of prison. Nobody cares about that. No, people want to know about the layout and geography of the island that Doflamingo ruled over for like 10 years. Dressrosa, the country of love and passion and toys. Three things that you wouldn't think necessarily go together, but, well, okay, sometimes they do, but not in this particular context, alright? So we'll be talking about today on Geography is Everything. And we got a sponsor today. If you haven't noticed the nifty little box we have back here, this is the Otaku Box, sent to me by the good people at the otakubox.com. What's inside of the Otaku Box? Well, we're just gonna have to wait until later in the video, won't we? Yes. But for right now, Geography! Okay, Dressrosa. Let's just dive right in, because there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. Keep in mind, this is the setting for the longest arc of One Piece currently, at around almost 100 chapters exactly, which makes sense. I mean, Doflamingo is a very prime villain. We saw him appear a few times pre-time skip. We knew what his abilities were. We knew he can manipulate string in some capacity. We saw him wreak havoc at Marineford, but we just didn't know much more about him. We knew he was very influential in the underworld, but how influential and what his past was all about, that stuff got all unloaded on us in the Dressrosa arc, and I understand why Oda made it as long as he did. But yeah, let's dive right into it, because we got a lot of stuff to unpack here, because a lot of stuff in this island. So, upon arriving at Dressrosa, just approaching it from the ocean, you really can't see anything on it itself, because the entire island is surrounded by giant boulders. Like, huge, you know, like, and they do not look like they're naturally occurring. I mean, granted, this is the New World, but it looks like they were put there for a purpose. And if you actually think about it, that makes a lot of sense. Let's say there was some sort of fortress in Dressrosa, which there is, and your enemy was trying to invade it. Well, a big advantage is not knowing what your enemy is doing in advance. If you had like 100 ships approaching Dressrosa with the hopes of invading the country, you could look at it through binoculars or a telescope, and you can't see what's going on behind those giant boulders. You don't know if their army knows you're coming, if they're mobilizing, if they have some sort of tactic. Just to fortify, they provide protection. If, you know, they're approaching the island and they're like, launch the, you know, the cannons or whatever, and they're hitting the boulders instead of the actual island, provides really good defensive strategies if you really think about it. And this was long before Doflamingo came to town, so I guess you can credit the Dold family for this on however they managed to do it. But yeah, from the surface of just the ocean approaching it, it doesn't look very special. When you get on the island itself, you notice there's a really long stretch of like stairs you have to climb up, and then once you get past the boulders, then you get into the actual island itself. So the island, much like Wano, is actually broken up into 5 different sections, with a capital or a castle being right in the center. However, it's unlike Wano. It's not quite as big as Wano, so it's more of like just one major city, but these 5 areas are like different districts of that city, with the castle itself being in the very center on this really high plateau. Get used to me saying plateaus and hills. There's lots of plateaus and there's lots of hills in this arc. There's actually more of them by the end of the arc than at the beginning, because Pika exists, and we'll get into Pika, because this is the one instance of Geography is Everything where the geography actually changes mid-arc, because Pika exists. Alright, so anyway, let's talk about Acacia first, okay? Acacia, great word. I like to use that word. That's actually one of the main villains in the Toriko manga, so that's a fun word to say. Acacia, it's the name of a plant. There's a lot of plant references here. Also, considering that Dressrosa is kind of inspired in one part by Spain, you know, a country of passion, and then by Italy in another respect because of the Colosseum and everything. There's references to Spanish cities and Italian terms throughout the entire arc, okay? But Acacia is interesting because it's the port town. It's the place where the Straw Hats originally docked. We have a map of Dressrosa right here, and you can see that the South Harbor is located in Acacia. On the eastern side of this map, in the Carta region, we can also see an eastern harbor, and although it's not located here, during the latest cover series with Capone Beiji's Oh My Family, when Capone Beiji and Chiffon go back to Dressrosa to try to find Lola, we do in fact see a sign for a West Harbor. So it's not on this map, but I'm just going to draw it in here. It would probably most likely be located in the Primula region, which is located on the western side of the island. Please note the compass on the bottom left of the screen to really make sense out of all of this. And then to the northern part of the island, also not included on this map, but is on this map that was drawn by Law, is the island of Greenbit, which is where the Tontatas live. That's like their ancestral homeland. More on that in a little bit. But back to Acacia. All right, so it's a port town or a port district, okay? So it seems like most people coming to Dressrosa arrive at Acacia. The other ports might be for like marine transport or other means, but the main port for like visitors to the land seems to be Acacia because it's also the largest, okay? But anyway, also in the Acacia region is the Corradia Coliseum, the place where the big battle for the Marimarinomi is underway, and we got to see all those really cool gladiators there. That's where Rebecca made her appearance, Cavendish, Bartolomeo, Don Chinjao and his family. We had freaking Harudin is there, or Lumbus. They were all participating for that big epic battle for the Marimarinomi. And yeah, like I said, looking at this map, you might say that, oh, maybe the castle is its own little district or something, because there's that circle around it. But it doesn't seem to really be the case in the actual story, because the Corradia Coliseum in this map is right next to the castle, but it's actually stated to be inside of the Acacia region. That's the weird thing. There's a few different maps of Dressrosa, and even some overhead views, and a lot of them are kind of inconsistent. You know, like this map and this, kind of like, aerial view of the island is a little different with the location of the Corradia Coliseum. It's not in the same place as it on the map, and this was even before, Pika did his restructuring. So yeah, it's just, I don't know, lack of communication maybe between Oda and the anime department, or the people just not caring enough to do continuity because they figure it doesn't really matter, because who the hell in their right mind is going to sit down and analyze the structure of Dressrosa? I know, Barry, it's weird, right? Okay, but no. So it's stated that the Corradia Coliseum is in the Acacia region, or in the Acacia district, so I'm just gonna go with that, okay? So moving clockwise to the left of Acacia is the Primula region, okay? And we don't really get to visit the Primula region too much. It's named after a genus of flower, but it is where Lover's Lane is located. Now, Lover's Lane is only a place that we know about in name only, because we see it on this map. We don't actually visit it during the arc. It's not like during the arc, you know, everyone's beating the crap out of each other, and at some point, you know, Viola's like looking to Sanji and be like, yeah, I know we're in this massive battle right now for, you know, supremacy of who rules the island and taking down Doflamingo, but Sanji, you want to go to Lover's Lane with me? Now, Sanji, of course, would have agreed, but, you know, we don't get to see it during the actual arc. But it's a Lover's Lane, you know, go watch a movie from, like, the 1950s, or a horror movie maybe from the 80s, you know, it's like a young couple goes up to Lover's Lane, and they start going at it, and then all of a sudden, a serial killer with a hook for a hand attacks them! Or watch that episode of SpongeBob, where they all get superpowers, you know, where it's like, you know, Manta Ray is attacking teenagers at Makeout Reef! Like, oh, Makeout Reef! Mwah, mwah, mwah. Yeah, I could put that on YouTube, sure, right? That was just disturbing. I'm never gonna do that again. That's one of the things, don't worry, I'll certify I'm never gonna do that again, okay? But yeah, that's a Lover's Lane, okay? So there you go, the Primula region. Don't get to see it too much in the story, but it's on the western side of Dressrosa, which is also the place where the western port that Beiji entered was probably located, okay? Next, we have the Balsa region to the north of Dressrosa. Interestingly enough, this region was not named in the manga. It was named in the anime, and they took it after Barcelona. City in Spain, right? And the only reason I know how to say Barcelona correctly is because of Doctor Who. So, thank you, David Tennant. They never did get to go to Barcelona, though. That was the sad thing. But anyway, yeah. So, the Balsa region, balsa wood, balsa tree, okay, get that reference there. That's the plant. But that's also the place where the bridge to Greenbit is located. So I'm going to take a little bit of a moment here to just talk about Greenbit. Not really much to go on here. But, you know, the city itself, just a regular district, and then you have this bridge, this wrought iron, just bent to hell bridge that's just, like, looking in severe state of disrepair. There's all these warning signs and tape, you know, barring it off, like, do not enter this bridge, very unsafe, do not do it. Don't even know why they keep it up, but hey, it's Doflamingo. Doflamingo probably finds it interesting. He's like, yeah, we probably should tear that bridge down, but yeah, I want to see if anyone's gonna go on it and go up against the fighting fish. The fighting fish are these really ravenous, really dangerous breed fish that are only found around Dressrosa for some reason, and they really hate the crap out of that bridge. I don't know what that bridge did to the fighting fish. Maybe they built it on their ancestral home ground or something, but yeah, they are constantly just butting into that freaking bridge trying to destroy it, but I guess it's a sturdy enough thing because it hasn't fallen yet. This is the only land route in order to get to Greenbit, so in order to get there, you have to, you know, jump over all the tape and the keep out signs, which doesn't really look like it would be that hard to accomplish, and then just make a straight shot for Greenbit, which is like maybe like a kilometer less north of Dressrosa. It's not a particularly long walk, but made all the more dangerous because the fish coming out of the water and trying to attack you and possibly destroying the bridge in the process. Greenbit itself, not really much to talk about in terms of geography. The surface is just filled with a bunch of crazy large vegetation because the Tontatas that live there are well versed at, botany and like cultivation and all that stuff, herbology. They can grow giant mushrooms and trees, and they so big they can even trap like marine ships on the island. So most people just tend to stay away, and that's the whole thing with Dressrosa. People talk about Greenbit. Like, they all know it's there. They don't know about the existence of the Tontatas necessarily. They think they're just like little pixies or fairies that steal things from the main island. But they know Greenbit's there, and they just know it's really, really dangerous because that's where all the fighting fish tend to congregate. So most of the citizens just decide to stay away from that place there. But anyway, underneath the monstrous vegetation, underneath the island itself, actually, we have the village where the Tontatas reside. And you see their little statue to Noland and Usopp are down there. There is a tunnel connecting that village to the main island of Dressrosa, so that's how Robin and Usopp managed to get back, along with their Tontata army and the Thunder Soldier, to commence the operation to dethrone Doflamingo. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need to really know about Greenbit, not much more beyond that. Also, there's a giant hole in it now because Fujitora sent a huge-ass meteor to crash down on it, so yeah, that changed, that warped geography a little bit. A lot of geography actually changes throughout the course of this arc, yeah, even more so than what Pika was involved in. You have freaking meteors crashing down and crap. Next up, after the Balsa region, we have the Carta region, located on the eastern side of Dressrosa, which is also where the eastern harbor is. Carta, I believe, is Spanish and Portuguese for letter, and I believe it's also Italian for paper. So there's the reference there. It's also a city called Cartagena? Cartagena? Am I pronouncing that even approaching Cartagena? Well, anyway, that's what I'll go with, so I hope I'm at least accurate a little bit there. Also a place in Dressrosa we don't see that often is actually the place where Kiros lives. So Kiros has that tiny little house kind of out in the countryside. This is the place that has the most country out of all of Dressrosa, okay? A lot of country singers hanging out in the Carta region. But no, I mean, it's a whole city, it's a district, but this is kind of like Central Park, okay? It's the place that has the most rolling fields and trees that you're gonna see, aside from like the Flower Hill, okay? It's a humble little place you want to go to get away from the hustle and bustle. You go to the Carta region for holiday, okay? So the only real importance of this place, other than it being the place where Rebecca was raised by Scarlet and Kiros before Scarlet died and Kiros had his, existence wiped from the memory of everybody, including his own daughter. Aside from that, it's also the place where the Straw Hats rested after the battle. Because after, Luffy was Gear 4-thing all over the place and defeating Doflamingo, that sounded kind of wrong. Luffy was Gear 4-thing all over the place. But that's an accurate statement for what he did, so I'll just roll with it. After all that, they had some place to rest because the Marines then invaded the island. They couldn't stay where they were. So Kiros is like, yeah, come back to my place. So they go back to his place. You have Robin and Sabo and Frankie and Usopp and Zoro and Luffy there. They're all resting up. Frankie's fixing his eye after his fight with Senor Pink. Sabo bids farewell to Luffy there, and then he leaves with Karasu, and Kiros just basically gives them this place to stay until they're fit and ready to leave, okay? And then you have the big reunion when Rebecca runs out and finds him, and it's a great moment. But that's the Carta region. Very, very, very humble kind of location there on Dressrosa. We just don't focus on it too much. Much like the next location, too. The last place in Dressrosa, the Cibio region, which is after Sevilla, also another city in Spain. Sevilla or Sevilla. And this is the place where Riku Dole III attacked his subjects, or rather he didn't, it was Doflamingo that forced him to. So Doflamingo had that whole deal with Riku Dole, I'll sell you Dressrosa, and Riku agreed, but just to be a dick, Doflamingo was like, oh, I'm still gonna manipulate her with my Parasito thread and force you to go through the streets and cut down your own people, and that's what he did, and this happened to take place in the Civio region, okay? And so, once again, it was destroyed a lot by the attack, because Doflamingo made it a big show, and it got lit on fire and everything, and then the Doflamingo pirates showed up at the last minute to save Dressrosa from their horribly corrupt king, and I guess just they made Doflamingo the next king, like, the next day, because like, oh no, our beloved king that we've loved for years and never did anything wrong suddenly started slaughtering everybody. Well, he's horrible, get him out of there. You, interesting stranger that ruled this country like 900 years ago and we haven't seen since, you can be the next king. It's so convenient you showed up, right? So, that's kind of silly, but yeah, that's the Civio region right there. And so that takes care of all the locations of Dressrosa, but there's a few more things to mention, as well as the restructuring that Pika did. So after a word from our sponsors, we'll get back to that. Alright everyone, so here we have the Otaku Box by the people at the otakubox.com, so check out that link below in the description. For about $24.95 a month, you can get yourself an Otaku Box. Inside of every one, you got at least a mini figurine as well as a plush. There are upgrade options available to get yourself a larger figurine or a t-shirt. So let's just check out what we got in here today. I believe this is a Rise of the Shield Hero focused one. It is. So, oh wow, that's actually really cool looking. Yeah, I like Raftalia from Rise of the Shield Hero. You know, Philo is cool too, but yeah, Raftalia is just better, okay? Okay, now this is an important time for me to mention something. Okay, so there's also, if you're into that sort of thing, which I'm not saying I am or anything, but there also are ecchi and hentai options for your Otaku Box. You know, they're not in everybody's, you know, if you're not into that particular side of things, but the option is there in case you want it. So we have Rhea Scrimmery from High School DxD. And we have this pin here, and I'm not sure who this person is from, but she has rather large, yeah. And we have a Raftalia figure. Here is the Raftalia figure from Rise of the Shield Hero. I can't wait for Season 2, by the way. I was really digging it. Next, we have a bracelet designed after Sword Art Online, because here is, yeah, the swords from there. We got Asuna's rapier, we got Kirito's elucidator, and his, Dark Repulsor, I think, is the name of Kirito's other sword that he uses in the first season of Sword Art. And all of this can be yours for only $24.95 a month, plus the upgrade options if you want the t-shirt and a larger figurine, and there's also options for ecchi and hentai if you're into that sort of thing. Go and check out the link below to the otakubox.com. Thanks for that, everybody, and now getting back to the geography of things. Okay, so now that we know all the locales and the districts and how everything's laid out in Dressrosa, also keep in mind you got the castle in the very center. You also have the Flower Hill, which is located a little bit more north in the Balsa region, it seems. You also have this bridge that divides the entire island right down the middle. It's a bridge that's also dividing the city of Ronda in Spain, and it's like an arch bridge. Looks pretty cool. So after we've seen all of that, you got it? Okay. Well, it looks nothing like that now. It didn't look anything like that after Pika did his restructuring, and it especially doesn't look like that now, because everything in Dressrosa, everything in the perimeter of the island, between those giant boulders that serve as the outcropping of the entire place, has now been effectively smushed together and then immediately decimated by the birdcage. So, yeah, it's basically just a flat wasteland, and that's the way we see it in Beiji's little cover story here. Now, there is still a city, you know, but you have to go kind of like further inland to get to it, and there's these lines cutting into the ground now. So, yeah, this is one of those situations where it's like, I'm sure they can rebuild, but it's gonna take a while. This isn't as simple as just, you know, fixing up some houses. This is like, this isn't quite as bad as like when Pain destroyed all of Konoha during Naruto, like his invasion, where there's like a giant crater in the middle of the entire village. It's not that bad, but most of the entire island just got destroyed, you know, the further away it went. So only like the center part of the island and the city still survives in any manageable way. But anyway, yeah. So Pika has the stone assimilation fruit, the Iwa Iwa no Mi, alright? Using this power, he can assimilate into stone and, you know, restructure anything that he comes in contact with. So he can turn the ground into a giant mountain. He could rise it above that level, and he can make a huge mountain, and he sculpted himself out of that mountain, and he could turn into like this giant kaiju just stomping around the island, this huge stone behemoth that can just crush anything beneath him. He can also take plateaus and hills and like smush them down so they're flat as the rest of the island, or he could take other random flat parts and then rise them up to make mountains. He can move buildings as long as they're made out of stone. He can do anything as long as the thing that he's messing with is made out of stone or some kind of mineral, okay? So after Doflamingo realizes he has to hit the kill switch and he activates the bird cage, you know, Pika restructures everything. He moves the castle into the Balsa region, to the northern section of Dressrosa. He moves the Flower Hill over on top of this plateau that was normally, like, you know, empty. He moves the Flower Hill on top of that, so there's like this tiered structure that you have to kind of rush onto in order to get to the very top. There's like 4 different levels of it, and it was all for the sake of this game that Doflamingo created. You know, you have to find these outlaws, these people that ruined my life, and really they ruined your lives too, because the whole reason I have to do the birdcage and the whole reason you guys might die is because of like Luffy and Sabo and God Usopp, all these horrible outlaws. You just find them and bring them in, and you get the money, right? right? So that was what Doflamingo was doing, trying to turn the populace on the Straw Hats and all of their allies in that one particular instance there with that little game. And a game needs a game board, so that's why he had to move things around, shuffle it around a little bit. You know how, like, you want to play a board game, but you have to move some furniture around? That's all Doflamingo was doing, really. So yeah, it looks more like this after everything gets kind of intense, and then looks like this after the dust has settled. Although, you gotta thank Fujitora for that, because there was a lot more rubble involved when the birdcage began to shrink and crush everything together, but using his gravity powers, the Zushi no Mi, Fujitora lifted up all the rubble and dispersed it that way. So at least the people of Dressrosa have more of like a clean slate in order to just build everything back up, but it's still going to take a really long time to fix. So that's where it's at right now. So with that all being said, we have one more important location in the land of Dressrosa to cover before we go, and that is, of course, the underground. Now, a lot of weird stuff with Dressrosa has been around for long before Doflamingo took to power, like Green Bits and the Fighting Fish and the Dangerous Bridge, and that bridge that connects the whole island there, the Colosseum, the rocky outcropping, all of that stuff's always been there. But the underground in the port that is there trafficking drugs and guns, I'm assuming Doflamingo's the one that created that, okay? So how this works is, you have a bunch of these chutes all over the island, like these trash chutes, and whenever a toy is exhibiting faulty behavior, which basically means if it starts to try to go up to people and try to remember, it's like, hey, I'm your husband, you remember me? If a toy starts acting more like a human, which is what they are, of course, the guards of Dressrosa that all work for Doflamingo are instructed to grab the toys and throw them into a trash compactor. What the compactor actually leads to is this underworld where it's like this underground port where ships can come in and out of the country unnoticed by the regular populace, bringing in shipments of guns and drugs and various, things into the country and then out of the country. This is also the place, the Smile Factory as well. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, the Smile Factory is on the surface as well, which is where artificial devil fruits were created. They get taken, they get put in the port, and then they get shipped off to Wano to be used for Kaido's Beast Pirate Army, okay? I'm actually wondering what the regular citizens think that place is, because Doflamingo can't go around and advertise that I'm making artificial devil fruits, so I wonder if they think, like, the people of Dressrosa just lie and say that it's, that's Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, that's Don Quixote Doflamingo's chocolate factory. Shh, it's always sealed up. No one ever knows what's inside. It has to be kept a state secret, So maybe that's what they tell the populace. But yeah, that's what the factory is there for. Really, is there's trees in there. And it's like greenhouses in order to cultivate the smiles, right? So yeah, that all goes down to the port and gets shipped out. This is also where Sugar spends most of her time, kind of in a place of safety, so she doesn't have to worry about being knocked unconscious. Treble's always there as her constant bodyguard. This is the place Usopp and Robin infiltrated, and they all eventually got turned to toys except for Usopp. Usopp was the one that saved the day. But yeah, actually, kind of considering the fact that Doflamingo is no longer in power, and the existence of the port, I think, was pretty much well known to the population, because remember the scene where Luffy, King Kong gunned Doflamingo right back into the surface, and then cracked it, and then he fell down to the underground port? That opened up a pretty sizable hole. Luffy's King Kong gun cracked the island in a pretty major way. There is a giant hole in the middle, like where the castle used to be there, right? So people can just look down and say, there was a secret underground port in Dressrosa the whole time? Dang it, I've lived in this country 85 years and I didn't know that was down there. So hey, I mean, that's better real estate, right? I'm sure the underground port probably didn't take nearly as much damage, well, up until the King Kong gun, probably didn't take nearly as much damage as on the surface with the birdcage and everything, so maybe they can make it like an underground city, like an Attack on Titan or something, so they have at least more space to work with. They can use it as a port, they can just shut down all the Smile facilities, and they can actually build houses down there, maybe, make it a theme park or something. I don't know, I'm just throwing out ideas here. Turning the underground port into a theme park. That would be pretty funny. That would be a great way just to stick it to Doflamingo. Yes, the monument of your evil empire where you were selling things illegally on the black market like smiles and drugs and weapons over to Kaido at Wano. That right now, it's a tilt-a-whirl ride. It's basically like Disneyland. And we've dressed people up like flamingos just to mock you even more. That would be the best way to get back to Doflamingo, I feel personally. But yeah. But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking101 signing out. And once again, thanks to the Otaku Box for the sponsorship. Once again, check out the link below to the website. You can get a box for $24.95 a month with certain upgrade options to get a full figurine or a t-shirt. Every box, though, does include a small figure or a plush, so that's something there. And then the ecchi and hentai option. Also, what they do if you subscribe to their website, they also do a vote to determine what's going to go into the next box. So obviously, I could tell this one was much more Shield Hero themed, but, you know, you're the ones that decide on what's going to go in the next box. So go check out below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Tekking signing out.